Let your verdict give us the answer.
Tell us about growing up in Delhi in a family of sort of lawyers.
Well, as you know, I was born and brought up there, and even though my father is a qualified lawyer, but he joined government service. But allied activities, he was the registrar of Central Administrative Tribunal, so it's sort of legal profession itself. And from the beginning, when I was in college, I used to think of joining bar.
Which college was it, sir?
It was in the University of Delhi, college called Shivaji College.
Achha.
I studied there, and I often used to go to the court because of my father, and I got inspired that one day I will be arguing the matter before the courts, and that is how I chosen my career in legal profession. Even though I did my cost accountancy, I did my company secretaries, I did my management, despite that I chose to remain in this legal profession. Very exciting and no regrets at all.
All right, sir. Tell us about your stint in legal education.
As expected, actually, legal I found very fascinating, right from when I was studying my law in the University of Delhi. There are teachers who, even today I remember them for their way of the teaching and their way explaining the concepts, first principle of law, like Professor Rodgi, I can't really forget about it, or Professor Upendra Bakshi, by the way, he used to teach us in LLM. I did my master in law, so he used to teach us, and the way he used to explain jurisprudence behind this. So I got more and more interested in this, and therefore I decided that I must eventually practice law. It is a different matter that I joined in-house counsel, so I am practicing law within the company, not as a freelancer.
So, sir, immediately after you completed your bachelor's in law, you did a master's in law, or was there a period in between?
No, in between there was a period, because after graduating in law, I joined, since I mentioned to you that I am a company secretary, so I had to, as a part of my training program, to join some company so that I complete my course in company secretaries. So I had to join some company, and as the luck would have it, they gave me placement there itself. So there was a gap of few years before I went and enrolled myself in Masters of Law.
At the Faculty of Law in Delhi?
At the Faculty of Law of Delhi.
All right, sir. Tell us about your initial experiences inside a company.
Well, initially, after working as a company secretary in the company, and going by my own fascination for legal profession, so I thought I must either practice law or join some company before practicing to give me an exposure and experience of legal profession. So as the luck would have it, Lever was looking for their food business, then known as Lipton India Limited, a lawyer. And I remember, when they asked me questions about legal laws applicable to their food business, and I said, I'm not aware of it. But still they kept me because, and on hindsight, I believe that they must have realized my first principles of laws were clear. So they kept me as a legal manager in Delhi for the Lipton office. I was in charge of the entire region there. And I started enjoying it because the variety of work that I used to handle there, from food laws to consumer laws to property matters and civil matters, interacting with lawyers, learning from them. So I got kicked quite a lot of my work and dealing with these people. And I stayed back because I found myself actually practicing in the legal profession. And Lever is an organization where, if you want, you can appear in the court. And they gave me an exposure. When I moved to Bombay, I was handling specialist function like indirect taxation. And I realized my predecessor were making appeals, appearing before tribunal. So I said, another opportunity. So I started doing the same. So I argued many matters of Levers before Central Excise Tribunal, before Commissioner. So what I otherwise would have done, I actually ended up doing this. So for that reason, I continued working in that environment and culture. I never missed, in the manner of speaking, the practice part of it because I was practicing. And that is quite satisfying. And if you're passionate about the work, then rewards will follow. And it happened with me as well. So I handled variety of work, right from litigation to restructuring, corporate restructuring within Unilever. That time there was opening of economy happening in 1991. We were acquiring Tomco, and I got involved in this. So I have seen that phase right from drafting a scheme of merger up to Supreme Court, because this was one of the historical merger which had happened and actually laid down the law in many respects, from valuation to allotment of shares to foreign company on preferential basis, or handling competition issue post acquisition of a competition firm. So it was a great landmark judgment, which I can say that, you know, I'm with proud that I was part of it. After a lot of restructuring which had happened, so company rewarded me by sending me to Unilever in London for in their corporate office. I was handling a lot of again restructuring for Middle East, Central Asia and Africa region. And then I came back to Bombay in 2000. Then I took over on the advising business, main business for them, essentially advertising laws, consumer laws, competition laws. And then finally I took over as a director and a member of the management committee in Levers till such time I left actually in April this year to join Aditya Birla Group.
All right, sir. During the early part of your wonderful and varied career,
yeah,
what were the thrilling moments that you felt, both perhaps during your litigation experiences and in your experiences advising the company? Anything that told you this is exactly why I am doing the law?
Yeah, I mean the companies basically, first of all, I think one must bear in mind the difference between external lawyers and in-house lawyers. External lawyers may or may not have perspective of business, and therefore there is bound to be in a manner of speaking, perceptual difference of a problem. For instance, you go to external lawyer, he's saying this is the problem, this is the way you need to handle it, and if you don't handle it, you can't do much about it. I would say in-house counsel is much more creative in some sense, in the sense that he has to make sure that while his primary role is to make sure that business is not going beyond boundaries set by the law, but equally there is a pressure and he knows it very well that he is in the business, and his role is to make sure business does happen, and therefore he has to use his skill to make sure that without violating the laws, business is carried on uninterrupted or at least with least friction. And to that extent, I think is a very creative and challenging role as in-house counsel. Lot of businesses will recognize you for the knowledge and experience that you bring in. They also take comfort in the fact that you have a lawyer who can take care of their interests. So you have to be clear you're always on the wedge. You should not transgress and become a businessman and cease to be a lawyer. So you have to retain your identity as a lawyer, but at the same time assume the role of a businessman, understand their perspective and evolve solutions within the boundaries of law which will work for the business. And if you are able to do that, I think you get confidence of the business, and that's the most challenging part of I would say in-house lawyer.
And in the early part of your career, did you realize this in certain instances? I
did actually. There has been a conflict in the beginning because you studied the law, you know the first principle of law, and you know what the business is talking about. They're absolutely patently illegal about it. But if you look at from their perspective, I don't think they are consciously or in any way mean to break the law. All they wanted is why there is a law, by the way. I'm doing a legal business. There's nothing. I'm not selling alcohol. I'm not selling narcotic products. All I'm selling is soap, detergent, and personal products. Why would there be a law governing our products? So that's the question which to a layman it will come automatically. Then you need to really tell them whether it is manufacturing or marketing. Your touch points are very many. Consumers get impacted with the way you communicate, the way you manufacture. They want a good quality product. They want a product which delivers, the claim that you make. So if you start telling them, and they are quite intelligent and therefore they appreciate. And what they are looking for is, after appreciating your position, is okay, how do we go about it? Whether you want to make a change in the government legislation, which many a time they have done, because in our system, legislation lags behind the development which is happening. So therefore, you have to engage with the government, with the lawmakers, and make sure that things happen and environment is creative, conducive to the business.
The role of in-house legal departments in corporate law reform. You worked in two of the biggest companies in India, and how did these companies engage in law reform? How did these in-house legal departments engage with the Ministry of Company Affairs or Parliament to engage in law reform?
Yeah, let me put it like this. That's the hallmark of a professional company versus non-professional company. I would say professional company will say that you want to operate in an environment which is good for the business as a whole, not for the company in which you work. Because what is good for the country is good for the business is something which is said in our system quite regularly. So you realize that you are here to do business in a rightful manner. Many a times, as for variety of reasons, there is a gap between the law that we have and the business, because innovation is constantly happening. And therefore, we had the clear mandate to engage with the lawmakers through industry association or being part of the government committees, and make sure that you enact a law which is good for the business generally, not only for you, because anything that you want to do it only for one business is not going to be sustainable. So eventually you have the consequences of that position. So in levers, and I'm sure because I'm relatively new in Aditya Birla, we are going to do that. I became part of various committees of the government, either as a nominee of the industry body or directly appointed. And I can say that many provisions of various laws which are applicable to our business, actually we played a fundamental part in making sure these happen. And these happen not only for us as a company, but for the entire industry in general. Even the corporate law reform, for instance, my senior, Mr. M.K. Sharma, he was a part of the committee. He submitted his report, and which is under consideration actually. And I believe this company's bill has taken quite a lot of inspiration from that bill, from the recommendation of Naresh Chandra committee, of which he was a member. So we will continue to evolve. You learn from this process. You meet so many people. You hear so many perspectives, and you also bring on table learning of various countries, because we are part of Unilever Global World, what is happening. And therefore, we play our part in making sure the laws that are being enacted in India are generally conducive for business, and at the same time protecting all stakeholders' interests.
As a member of an in-house legal department, you engage law firms on a regular basis. Can you let us know what factors you take into consideration while determining which law firm gets a particular mandate?
One of the challenging job is to ascertain, what is the expertise outside lawyers have. Because today this field has expanded like anything. You have large number of lawyers well trained in India and outside India. So unless you sit through the various courts and engage with these people, it's very difficult to ascertain the expertise level and what somebody can bring on table better than what you provide. But eventually I would like to go to a law firm where the value addition from them is much more than I can do internally. Otherwise there is no point, there is no value addition. So when we appoint law firms and decide and choose one of them, the single most important factor is their expertise. The quality of service they provide, their expertise, and their wealth of experience, not only in India but generally, because then they can really have a wider horizon to deal with the problem. So that's the most important thing. Cost is of course relevant, and particularly in today's age where cost is increasing. But I would say not at the cost of quality of service, not at the cost of expertise, and not at the cost of novelty that one brings in. So that's the one consideration that we have. Now how do we go about doing it? We are engaging regularly with lots of law firms, with their partners. We have our own internal system of evaluating, either through my colleagues in the in-house department or in-house departments of many other companies. So we engage with each other, draw upon their experience and find out what worked for them, what did not work for them. So as a result, we have a lot of information coming in, and then based on that information we decide which law firm, which partner can do justice to a given problem. So it has to be specific to each case. If I am acquiring, say, an international company, quite naturally, Indian firms may be not well equipped compared to international law firm. So therefore, we tend to go to international firm. But if I am operating within India, even though there are a large number of international firms, best partners are there or best friends are there, still I would go for an Indian firm who well grounded, developed, mature in the system. So that's how we work actually. So I won't say there is one size fit all kind of thing happening here. It is driven by purely what we have in hand and who can deliver the best.
In your experience, who are the best transaction lawyers in India?
All of them are good. I mean, because if they have done it, I would say they're good. I don't really want to rank them or rate them. It's a question of what experience they have, what exposure they had. So one may have exposure of financial services. They may be good at that because financial service and industry has their own peculiarities, regulation and system. So they can understand there are certain terms which are very unique to financial terms. Equally, somebody has done infrastructure. So it works on a different characteristics because industry nature is very different. So I would say there are firms, generally they specialize in industry wise, not subject wise, industry wise. The firm transaction good at infrastructure, the firm very good at financial service, the firm good at IT, and they understand nuances of this. And therefore for us also this is relevant. If I am looking at transaction involving power sector, I would rather go to a firm having done large number of power projects because they would understand nuances which I may not really know because we have variety of industries we are operating in.
Because of a prohibition of advertising, how do you get to know the specific expertise of each law firm?
Yeah, it is difficult first of all, but as I mentioned to you, our networking is one of such things. Law firms come, they give their brochure, you engage with these people, try to find out what their previous experience has been and what is uniqueness they bring on table for these. And secondly, your informal network through in-house counsels. I think these are the two factors we filter the information and try to find out who can do better job. Then your own experience, by the way, if you have done some experience, you have assessment of that firm. So these are the few, I would say these are not very softer issues, these are not very hard issues.
Okay. It's very interesting that you mentioned an informal network of in-house counsel. Can you just explain a little more about that?
Yeah, we, this large company normally have in-house counsel, not many companies would have. So if we have a Godrej, we have Tata, we have Reliance, Lever is one of them, P&G is another one, Johnson & Johnson. So generally we interact with each other either on bilateral basis, and we created in the past a system where in-house counsel will meet periodically at some location and they generally discuss regulatory environment, what is happening, what is latest. Some of the law firms are being discussed, which in public domain, we don't share confidential and competitive information. And therefore you start picking up information, for instance, I was checking with somebody, we were exploring whether we can invest in Argentina. And I realized that one of the in-house counsel has done that work. So I just called him up, what's your experience in Argentina? So you learn about this, you start with that, and then you expand your horizon. So that is how it works.
It's very interesting because I was wondering if methodology has developed among in-house counsel for controlling costs in law firms.
There is always a way of working out. For instance, as I mentioned to you, number one is that you need to really outsource part of the job where they can add more value to you and they're more effective cost-wise. For instance, in a transaction, just to give an example, if you want to do due diligence internally, it is humongous. Secondly, I think expertise may not lie. You need large amount of resources. But outside firms have specialized in doing due diligence over a period of time. They have developed their systems, their IT framework, they know what to look, how to report. So it will be foolish on our part as in-house counsel to do that kind of job here. That will be outsourced, quality will improve and cost will be also contained and timeliness will happen. But wherever there is a special feature, because you are unique in the business and you want to bring in some unique feature to definitive agreements, I think you have an effective role to play there. So you may decide, okay, this I want to control it myself. Or regulatory regime, you need various approvals, you decide, okay, I want to do it myself because I know my industry very well, I know how it works. So therefore you decide which area need to be outsourced, which area you need to do it yourself. And therefore in this process, A, you get best of both the worlds, and B, timely completion, and C, cost effective. It is cost effective. Thirdly, of course, we are putting a cap. As you know it, from our side, we would like to put a cap on the maximum amount of professional fee one would be paying to a law firm. So normally they charge on hourly basis, but subject to a maximum. So this trend has started in yet, and therefore, in my view, maybe the external firms are also very sensitive to increasing costs. So they are quite amenable to look at the cap.
All right. What about the issue of liberalization of the Indian legal sector? Is there a common opinion among Indian in-house counsel?
I would guess so, because unless there is a competition, you can't get best. I mean, it's a age-old adage, and it applies to everything from business to profession. So long as we stopped competition coming into India, we did not see variety of services and goods being made available to our consumers or customers. You take any field, from garments to any industry you take, and we are flooded with variety of things. Consumers are able to make take informed decision, and legal service is no different. I am fortunate enough to work in developed world in London. I worked with number of Queen Counsel in arbitration as well, and I could really see the difference between, and even now actually we have one arbitration where we have engaged Queen Counsel in India. So I can really see the professional approach that these people have compared to our colleagues in external lawyers here. And I would say that by opening up, we will make this profession completely decent and totally professional and command respect, which over a period of time, even within amongst lawyers, is not I won't say with pride, this is a good profession to be in, and although there are some issues there. So it is in our interest as a legal professional to open up this sector and get the professionals there and do our best.
Apart from opening up of the legal sector, any other remedial measures you believe are required in the Indian legal sector to not just improve professionalism, also improve discipline at the bar, level of legal service?
It does, but I don't blame the entire legal profession. It is all the client. So eventually they are engaged by business, and therefore they are interested in delivering outputs at the end of it. Now their business is asking, okay, take time, and they don't submit information on time. So I would say what the lawyer would do it. So I think we need to set our house in order. As a client, I would say I'm in a different position as a client as well as an house lawyer. And also lawyers needs to be sensitive and not advise the client that everything is taken for granted. So if they are also disciplined, the clients will get disciplined. I don't know where to start. If the client will start or the lawyers will start. But I think both needs to work together to bring in discipline, and so that quick disposal happen, because it is not in the interest of the profession or in the business to continue litigating. So I believe that reforms are needed, badly needed, and therefore we have started exploring alternate ways of resolutions. All companies invariably they decided working on alternate ways of resolutions of various issues. It is only when you are forced, because there is no resolution coming in or which is acceptable to both the parties, then one is forced to go to the court of law because of these reasons.
All right. You've been an in-house counsel for a very long time. How has the role of the in-house legal department, the in-house lawyer, changed over the last 20 years, say since liberalization?
One is they recognize their adding value. First of all, the role would depend to a large extent upon the receiver of the service. So if somebody has kept a lawyer within the system, he has some expectation. Number one, I start with the entry level. The role can increase and expand rapidly. It depends on the person who is on the board. So to a large extent, the individual concerned must have interest in areas which will increase his level of activities and the importance. If one were to really look at, I will handle only what is given to me, I will not interact with the businesses, and I will not try to understand their issues, then I think role is very minimal. It's the old era. I don't think it is going to work. But if the role is that this is a business and we are not here to do illegal things or improper things, but here is one I can contribute. So the role can change from merely a compliance to make sure that company's interest is being defended properly, but also to add value to business in their own right. Corporate governance is one of them. They can increase the level of corporate governance significantly They can also increase the transparency level, and they can continue to look at various alternatives for resolution of disputes. For instance, by engaging with governments, by seeking changes in laws, by encouraging mediation procedure, by keeping their house in order. So there are a variety of things one can do, but it depends on one's own disposition. So I would say that there is an expectation by the employer for an in-house lawyer, but that expectation can increase or decrease. That depends upon the individual concerned.
All right. So tell us about the Aditya Birla Group legal team.
Aditya Birla Group has about 250 lawyers in a group. And when I joined in, I wanted to find out how many lawyers do we have. And I was quite taken aback because we are a mid-sized law firm within the company. But I don't know any one of them, excepting those who are sitting with me in this office. We are 10 of us. And this is exactly linked with your previous question. What is the role? So I can assume this my role as, we are only handling transactions for the group. And that's what my role is. So I'll deal with these people, we'll do our best to make sure that transactions happens on time and we get benefit of the transaction. But this is not exactly what I'm looking for. I'm looking for, can we really create a sort of a large team and provide functional excellence through continuing education program within the company in areas which are interesting to us, to our businesses, like computational matter, transaction matter, commercial law contracts. Not everything can be covered. Number one. Number two, can we really explore and work out something which is good for the group for resolution of all litigation, so we can reduce this? Can we also, rely upon standardization, the processes, to reduce our workload on mundane and routine matters and spare our time to do something more constructive, either engaging with the government on rule making, on seeking suitable changes, or in changing our way of working, making adaptable or as per the requirement of the law. So these are the roles we are looking at as a group, and over a period of time that will be our thrust. So role, again linked to the first question, is where it depends what we want to do in this group. So as I see, we have a golden opportunity, and that perhaps could be the reason for my leaving an established company. It is very challenging, very different industry, conglomerate, and one can do quite a lot of things.
All right. And are there teams within this group, within the corporate legal group?
There are. We are 10 of us here, and we have two senior colleagues coming from senior position of different companies, and they are all specializing in transaction work, and they are also doing partnership role for various businesses.
All right. And you mentioned the 200 odd lawyers. How do they liaise with the 10 here?
Yeah, for instance, the 10 who are here relatively senior in the system, they have been given a role to, I would say, mentor them. So if they are partnering with the business, so all those lawyers within the business, he will engage with them, understand their needs, understand where the gaps are, and they will be constantly engaging with them. Now, as a starting point, we are combining together for a meeting. We just want to know who is where and everything. We're going to have first meeting soon in Lonavala this month, and then we're trying to find out what is the expertise we are having within the group today. For instance, today I rely upon due diligence from outside lawyer. Is it possible that if there is a smaller transaction, I can use them and see, can we really do it effectively? They will also be charged up because they are doing something very different. They may not get any chance to do it. And secondly, we'll get a chance that, we here is a team and we can do it ourselves. So it is a number of things. We want to put the process in place where there is a frequent interaction at a functional level as well as non-functional level. And that is how we'll bring this team together and produce the best results.
Okay. Is there a consistent hiring strategy?
Yes, hiring historically is more lateral, because we did not have, unlike in Levers where we used to hire at the campus, we don't have that system here. And even we hire at campus, it is only for a lower level position rather than as a building up a future. So what we are saying that henceforward we will have a balance of lateral and recruitment at campus. So this year onward we are going to recruit from campus, train them over a period of 12 months, not only within the legal function but across various businesses, so they understand business, and this is a golden opportunity for them to have direct exposure to various businesses, learn from it, and when they are in the business of providing legal support, they know what the predicaments are, what the issues are, how are they being handled. So our intention is to have a balance of lateral hiring as well as campus hiring.
All right. And what about training within the organization? Somebody junior has just come into the organization. What steps are taken within the organization to train and equip them for industry?
Today, I would say honestly there is very little we do, but again this is a work to be done, and we have identified number one, starting with putting them onto the businesses and rotating them. Number two, like seniors attachment, mentoring happening, so they get exposure on the legal function. And number three, we are periodically meeting as a group and understanding. And number fourth, we will also be not ruling out sending them out to law firms for a brief stint. So these are the few steps we have conceptualized for continuous training and development of people. Our idea is that we will recruit centrally in Aditya Birla Center here and start sending them out a few years to various businesses and then keep on rotating at various levels. Okay. That's how we want to run this.
Let your verdict give us the answer.